Alright, section 2. Graph quadratics and vertex or intercept. So those are two new forms. You know standard form. Now you're going to know vertex form and intercept form. Okay? So, here's a couple notes here. Vertex form. Y equals, should write this down. Y equals A times x minus h squared plus k. Where have you kind of seen this before?
Absolute value.
Absolute value. Absolute value is very similar to this. So, if you know absolute value, you're going to know what this is then. So, HK is the what? The vertex. So it says that right here. So key points. After you write this equation down, key points. The vertex is h comma k. Next, if you know the vertex, what do you know? Yeah, you know the axis of symmetry if you know the vertex. And if you know the axis of symmetry, you know half of the vertex, right? They're with each other. Don't have good vocabulary today. The axis of symmetry is, notice, x equals h. Don't just write me a number. Don't say the axis of symmetry is 5. I'll take off a point for that. Okay? X equals. Lastly, you know this part. If a is greater than 0, it opens up. And a is less than 0, it opens down. So, just a few key ideas here. So, what can you get from this? A translation. If you know the vertex, you know how much it translated. You know, right 2, up 1, whatever it is. It all depends on your h and k. That's where it translated. Like this. The parent is put right here. H and k. Moved it this much, this much. Okay? Whatever the h and k is. Alright, so those are some keynotes for vertex form. Why is it called vertex form? Shows you the vertex, right? If you see something like this, you say, oh, that's vertex form. So, I know the vertex, right? Alright, so example number 1. Graph a quadratic function in standard form. Now, we're mostly going to use our calculator for this. But what should we write down first before we go to the calculator? Okay, vertex. Should we do negative b over 2a? No, because this is in vertex form, right? So, your vertex is just looking at this thing, which is negative 2, comma 5. And the common mistake is people putting what? Positive 2, right? But it's x minus h. So that's why it's negative 2 here, right? So negative 2, comma positive 5. There we go. So if we know the vertex, we know the axis of symmetry. X equals what? Well, if we go back to our equation, what was it? X equals h. So therefore, x equals, here's our h. X equals negative 2. That should be the start of your graph right there. I wouldn't type it in the calculator until I wrote down those two things. Just like I would for standard form, I wouldn't type it in the calculator until I found my vertex and my axis of symmetry. Okay? So, on your graph, you would just plot the vertex. Negative 2, comma 5. Plot a vertex. And these always draw the axis of symmetry. So, it's right there. X equals negative 2. Now, to get my points, now I would use my calculator. Could you not use a calculator? Yes, you could plug in some x's, get some y's. You don't want to do that. That'll take a lot of time. But you could. Okay, so type this in your calculator exactly the way you see it. Anytime you get a fraction, I always put a fraction in parentheses just in case. Okay, negative 1/4 in the fraction there in parentheses times x plus 2 squared plus 5. Type that in. Everybody type it in your graphing calculator. If you don't have one, I got a few back here. Alright. Type in your graphing calculator. Hit the table key. We're going to look at our table and it's going to tell us everything we need to know. Tell us all our coordinates. So, look at your table. What are some coordinates here? X, Y. Here's what I do. I've always put my vertex in the middle. I always put the vertex right in the middle so that I get points on one side and the other side. That's why. Alright, so I'm going to look at -1. I'm going to look at 0. I'm going to look at, actually, that should be on this side, right? Oh well. So -3, -4. My table is going to be a little backwards, but get the idea. 0, comma, what? I got 4? -1, comma?
4.75.
Okay, 4.75. And -3, comma?
-1.25.
-1.25. -4.
-4.
4? Something seems to be off. Because it should be symmetrical, right? Yeah, -3 should be 4.75 because this is symmetrical, right? This is in the middle. Well, it has this point on both sides. It has 4, 4. Should be symmetrical. Okay. So let's plot these real quick. 0, comma 4. There we go. -1, 4.75. -1, 4.75, somewhere up here. On the other side of this thing, -3, comma 4.75, and then -4, comma 4. Notice a symmetrical thing here. Draw a curve, please, not an absolute value, but a curve here. Should look something like this on your paper. Know how to graph. Okay? Calculator does a lot of work for you. Use it.